Let's take you now to Los Angeles, where police are giving an update on the investigation into the death of rapper Nipsey Hussle. Let's listen.
By many measures, the safest city in America, but a place still, as I've always said, where one death is one too many. Nipsey Hussle was an artist who touched our city and the lives far beyond the city of angels throughout this country and this world. He was somebody who was a gifted and brilliant artist, an entrepreneur who found global success, who was working closely with this city to help save lives and transform lives, even as he was doing that for himself. He was a tireless advocate for the young people of this city and of this world, to lift them up with the possibility of not being imprisoned by where you come from or past mistakes, but the possibility of what comes in the future. And his impact on our city was deep. You'll hear that from Councilmember Marquise Harris-Dawson in a moment. My own office was able to work with him on a number of initiatives to bring more African Americans in the tech industry, to stand up businesses for people who have been involved with the criminal justice system. And the news that we have to share this morning is that the hardworking men of the Los Angeles Police Department, together with the strong relationships we have within the community, have identified the person believed to be responsible for this devastating crime. He is 29-year-old Eric Holder. And in just a few moments, we'll hear from Chief Moore. He'll share some details about that and ask for the public's help in bringing justice to Nipsey's family. And if anyone out there has information about this individual or this crime, we urge you to call LAPD's South Bureau homicide at 213-485-4341. Nipsey's death has sent shockwaves across this city and across this globe. But we're also here for all Angelenos whose lives have been cut short as well. Even though we see homicides down this year to date by over 17%, there have been 11 homicides throughout the city in the last week alone. 11 lives, 11 possibilities, 11 dreams, 11 family members, 11 friends who were cut short. And just because they didn't make the headlines, their loved ones are just as deeply grieving as so many friends and family are for Nipsey. These individuals should still be here with us today. Fact is, there's been an uptick in violence and shootings in South LA in the 77th Division in recent weeks, and we intend to use the strength of this city to roll that back. A strength that isn't just about badges and guns. It is mostly about, first and foremost, the strength of our community relationships. Yes, of course, with the police and from the police, but the churches, the community groups, the neighbors, our gang reduction and youth development intervention workers and prevention workers who know the names after many years of work of people who live and play in parks in these neighborhoods, who go to school in these neighborhoods, who earn their living in these neighborhoods. And I'm deeply concerned, and I will commit everything this city has together with the county, and we're blessed to have Supervisor Mark Lee Thomas here, and the City Council to turn this around. I want to thank the folks that are here. As I mentioned, Chief Moore, Councilmember Harris-Dawson, also Councilmember Monica Rodriguez, who chairs our Public Safety Committee, Commission President Steve Soboroff, and all the LAPD command staff and officers, community leaders that are here with us today, and the amazing folks from our grid teams, all those intervention workers who, when the bullets fly, go out to the streets and run towards them. Through the hard work and commitment of these Angelenos and the strength of this fabric, which I'm so proud has been for many years put together, stitched together in this city to be an example for this nation, we've made extraordinary strides. That coalition has helped us get over 14,000 guns off our streets, has helped us bring in South LA the safest year in recorded memory, the lowest homicide, second lowest number of homicides, in 50 years in Los Angeles, and most importantly, working hard to strengthen relationships even further. Councilmember Harris-Dawson and myself worked very hard to bring the Community Safety Partnership to Harvard Park, once seen as the deadliest place in Los Angeles. This is an assignment of 5 years for officers, so they can get to know the names of people who are in that neighborhood and vice versa. And those relationships have turned a corner in Harvard Park. In 2017, there were no homicides, 3 last year, but that's way down from what we saw year over year over year. This is about young people of color being able to have opportunities in their lives, maybe become police officers themselves, get to know those who police with them and for them. And this is about hope for the future. We have a reason to feel hopeful even in the moments of our most extreme pain, and that's by turning to each other. We saw that, and we've seen that since Nipsey was taken from us. That love that is out there, and I ask everybody who's grieving for him to grieve for the families of those other victims as well, whose lives were just as important and just as significant. What we see now is yet another reason to be hopeful is this coalition and the help the public can give Nipsey's family and the family of those other homicide victims, that at least justice can be served. And I would say to anybody out there, too, the absolute worst way to pay back Nipsey's loss, somebody we lost at the hands of violence, is with more violence. And we know that there is much more love than hate, much more love than violence out there. And we intend to give space for people to grieve, space for people to mourn, and space for people to come together. Right now, I want to turn it over to a man who knew Nipsey, worked very closely with him, helped his businesses get stood up, helped him to make sure he was part of the transformation that this man is leading in his district along Crenshaw Boulevard and keeping African-American businesses there, helping young people have avenues of success that we see in other parts of town. And I want to thank him. I know his heart is grieving and is heavy. But please welcome Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor and Chief and officers of the Los Angeles Police Department and all the assembled elected officials and community leaders that are with us today. We lost in South Los Angeles an extremely bright light over this past weekend. Nipsey Hussle is a shining example of the best of what we can be and the best of what it means to seek and carry out a redemptive charge. This is a young man who is the son and grandson of South Los Angeles, both from an immigrant family and from a traditional African-American family, who saw much of the devastation that we all recorded over the 1990s and beyond. As a young person who witnessed this, at some point in his life, he made the decision that he was going to be part of the solution, and he was going to lead the charge on the solution, deciding and taking a very firm stance that he lived out, that if South Los Angeles is to ever have what it deserves, if the community is ever to be treated the way it should be treated, that we had to own and build it for ourselves. And he spent the last half dozen years trying to carry out that vision while he built a very successful music career. And so his gift and his insistence on us living our best life went from the highest level to developing really three strong organizations and businesses in South Los Angeles to the lowest level. And so there were many occasions where I stood with him on that very parking lot and was fascinated by the fact that the small business owner next door knew him by first name, as well as the person struggling with addiction or homelessness knew him by his first name and had watched him grow up. And so it is a dear loved one that we have lost, and a demonstration of the very true moray that none of us are safe until all of us are safe. One of Nipsey's most well-known songs says, "Bullets don't have names, and as long as they're flying, all of us are in danger." And so we continue to celebrate his legacy, and we ask the community to do so in a way that is consistent with his story, consistent with his gift, and consistent with his promise. At the same time, I would also echo the comments of the mayor, and I know the chief will talk about this later. We have an uptick of violence in South Los Angeles, gun violence in particular. Again, it is not off the charts, or it is not like things that we've seen in years past, certainly not in decades past. But Nipsey is an example for all of us that any life lost is a life too many. And so we ask everybody to work together, to stand together, and to fight together to create the kind of streets and communities that we deserve to live in, where people can live out their highest and best potentials. Thank you all so much.